Ah, there it is. We are now streaming live on YouTube. Beautiful. So, hello again to our YouTube friends, and hello everyone who's joined us today. Thank you so much. Welcome to Family Law Now After Hours. I'm Jodine. I'll be hosting slash facilitating, I guess. I'm an articling student here at Russell Alexander Collaborative Family Lawyers. And I guess I'll just do a quick about me because it's not really about me. So I'll just do a quick one. Um, I'm a Queen's graduate, and I had the privilege of taking part in various legal clinics to hone my advocacy skills through different roles. And that's how I became interested in doing family law. So now, today we have, I think, was a really popular topic. Today is divorcing a narcissist. Before we get started, I would like to do some cleaning stuff. So, disclaimer, please note that the purpose of this series is to discuss general information on separation, divorce, and family law matters. Any information provided here should not be construed as legal advice. Please use the Q&A features to submit your comments and questions. If you have any questions regarding the specifics of your matter, please contact our office or law office or a lawyer in your area to book a consultation to receive tailored advice. On that note, if you stay tuned until the end, we will be sharing how you can schedule a free 20-minute initial consultation with one of our lawyers. So I'll move on to introductions. We have with us Sonia, a lawyer at our firm, and we also have Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you. Not a lawyer at our firm,
Oh,
but I'll tell you about I'll tell you about both of them. So Sonia, with nearly 9 years of experience in family law, including 2 years as a family law clerk at Russell Alexander, um, brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to her roles. She specialized in various aspects of family law, such as case research, document preparation, court proceedings, and client relations. Recently, Sonia was licensed to the bar. Sonia, that wasn't that recently.
I have to
You're an
update my
old hat
profile.
now.
time to update your bio, Sonia.
Yeah,
Time to update it because I'm like, wait,
yeah.
what? Okay, but it wasn't that long ago. So Sonia now serves as an associate lawyer at the firm, aiming to leverage her legal knowledge to provide exceptional support to clients. Known for her upbeat and optimistic demeanor, true, you don't have to change that part. Sonia prioritized building positive and trustworthy relationships with her clients to alleviate the stress associated with domestic issues. Thank you for being here with us, Sonia. And now Jonathan Painter has been on this program a few times now, and we're ever so grateful for his presence. Jonathan is a registered social worker and psychotherapist who works in the family law system, completing parenting plan assessments, voice of the child reports, family mediation, and collaborative family law in private practice. He also provides psychotherapy, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, family therapy, and couples counseling, as well as counseling for children and adults. Jonathan is on the board of directors for the Ontario Association for Family Mediation, holding the executive position of treasurer of the board, and is on the board of Collaborative Practice Durham Region. Woo! Hello, hello, hello. How are you both today?
Good.
Good. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah.
Please. No worries. So today, as I said at the top, we do have a fairly popular topic, and Jonathan and Sonia, I'm really glad that you two are here today. So it's true. Well, I would say that not every ex, we should put it out there, not every ex is clinically narcissistic, but many people may describe their former partners as controlling, manipulative, or just like super combative. So, Jonathan, can you please speak to us about how difficult it can be in the family law process um, when there are such combative personalities and you end up in a high conflict situation.
Yeah, so I think it might be helpful first to kind of get into the weeds a bit about what we mean by narcissism. It's actually a medical diagnosis. So what it means to a medical professional who's diagnosing them is it's a mental health condition. Usually something is born with it. Their upbringing and life experiences like trauma can promote its growth and cause it to worsen. And some of the key characteristics of someone who has this condition include a sense of grandiosity. So it's more than just like thinking highly of oneself, but like a pathological sense of self-importance, exaggerated self-image, like you think you're just the best and the brightest and the most important person ever. Generally, people who have this condition feel superior to others. They have a strong sense of entitlement, like I deserve things that other people don't deserve because I'm better than other people. They lack empathy, which is a really big piece of this condition. So they don't understand, it's not just that they're a bit callous and a little bit withdrawn. They genuinely have a functional inability to understand and emotionally connect with other people's suffering. So they don't have empathy. They don't care about other people. And they often used particular patterns of manipulation and control. So you often see people with narcissistic personality disorder engaging in coercive controlling behavior. And again, it all roots back to them thinking that they're more important than everybody else, and then they can treat other people however they want because they're the most important. Everybody has to serve them, kind of thing. So, I mean, it can be a real disaster and nightmare to be married or in a relationship with someone with this condition. They're very manipulative. They're very they use techniques that we talk about all the time, like gaslighting, to get their own needs met, and so it can be a real challenge for someone to be in a relationship with a person with these kinds of behaviors and thought patterns, but it actually gets worse when you want to separate from them.
Mhm.
Separating from them is kind of like causes injury to they call them ego injuries because they have
Yes.
such a grandiose sense of self. Why would anybody possibly want to separate from me because I'm the best, right?
Perfect.
So
They're perfect.
while they're going through that separation, they can engage in a lot of very, very challenging behaviors. And so if you are going through a separation with someone who has a diagnosis, they will thrive in conflict. They will use whatever means they can to continue their control and abuse of you, including, legal intimidation, smear campaigns and affidavits, litigation abuse. They might send nasty messages, all that kind of stuff. So I do want to be, on the other hand, cautious about talking about narcissism because, as
Mhm.
Jodine and Sonia and other family lawyers and family law professionals know, it's one of the most overused descriptors of someone's ex. And so it's important to put um, your um, your situation in perspective, because sometimes we do run into genuine diagnosable narcissistic personality disorder among our clients at times,
Mhm.
but often people use that label to kind of dismiss their ex, and you as your ex's ex-partner are probably the worst person to diagnose them, because your point of view is biased, right? You're only seeing the negatives. It's confirmation bias. You're only looking for the pieces of their behavior or comments that support your pre-existing belief. So, narcissistic personality disorder is a real condition. It is really awful to go through a divorce when someone has this condition, but it is also an overused label in court, and sometimes used to dehumanize ex-spouses, justify bad behavior towards them, around the kids or in court. People, I'm sure both of you have heard, my ex is a narcissist, so they shouldn't have time with the kids, or maybe they'll excuse their own behavior, like my ex is a narcissist, so that's why I have an affair, or there's no point trying to co-parent with that person because they're a narcissist. So that attitude can actually cause extra problems in court. There's been a bit of case law about this too, where parents making claims that their ex is a narcissist can sometimes be seen as an abusive act, and that it's used as a smokescreen to hide their own bad behavior. Before getting too much into it, I just want to make everyone aware to be cautious, not to kind of overuse the term, because it can come back to bite you. And judges are aware that sometimes people use the label inappropriately. But anyways, getting back to how to cope with a narcissist, one thing that, if you're going through mediation or court or collaborative or whatever process you've picked, remember that there is probably going to be high conflict if your ex is a genuine narcissist. So expect high conflict, but be the Buddha yourself. Be calm, be collected, at least on the outside. Don't engage with them. They're always going to win fights with you because they're always willing to take it to the next level. They're willing to gaslight and blame shift and use emotional manipulation. They might be willing to use the kids against you or the legal system or call the police against you. So the more you engage in conflict with them, the worse the conflict will go for you. So try to avoid engaging in the conflict. One of the things that I tell clients is that every time your narcissistic ex is throwing you in a conflict, it's like they're throwing you a fishing line with a lure on the end and wanting you to bite it, so then they can reel you in for the conflict, right? So don't take the bait, don't take the bite, and try to avoid engaging in conflict with them. Some level of conflict is necessary. You're probably going to have to go to court. You're probably going to have to go to, a lawyer. You might have to, ideally you would go to, mediation or collaborative, but it might not be reasonable to do that with depending on how severe the narcissistic behaviors are, because they may not be negotiating good faith for processes like family mediation and collaborative. So you might end up having to go to court anyways. But try to use the BIF technique whenever possible. BIF stands for brief, informative, friendly, and firm. So keep your messages really brief. Don't respond to messages about, personal attacks against you or, inappropriate comments that they make to try to draw in to the conflict. Only respond to the issue that needs to be responded to. So for example, if you send them a message saying, hey, what are we going to do for Good Friday? The kids are off to school and, I want to figure out what the schedule is for the Easter weekend. And they say, hey, you're a terrible person and I hate your hair and, all kinds of other nasty things about you. Only respond to the piece about Easter. Don't respond to all that other stuff. And remember, like, if you're trying to convince them of anything, it's not going to work. Like, one of the characteristics of this disorder is that people have a very distorted worldview. So they see things in fundamentally different ways than other people do. So you going to them and saying, hey, this is why you're wrong about my hair and about everything about me, or, giving them parenting advice, any of those kinds of things, don't get into any of that stuff. just try to keep things as brief as possible.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, I appreciate you grounding us in reality, especially when it comes to being careful about how we use the word narcissist, even in cases where there is manipulation and control. The individual might not necessarily be a narcissist, and maybe and maybe use of that word will not be appropriate before the court. You need to be mindful about what you're presenting toward before the court. And we are going to talk about documenting and maybe evidence of some sort, but we won't dive too deep into it, but Sonia will talk to us about that. But I also appreciate the mention of BIF, which is a really handy acronym. Keep it brief, informative, friendly, and firm. Is that it?
You got it. You nailed it.
Perfect. Yeah, so that's
that system comes from Bill Eddy at the High Conflict Institute. Bill Eddy is a lawyer, social worker who works out of California, I think, and he's created this system of dealing with very difficult people, whether it's at work or with your ex or someone in your family, whatever. And so, just Google BIF response, and you'll see a whole bunch of books on the topic that will give you some great advice on how to manage difficult people.
Well, yeah, I mean it's super easy to remember, and it's a good reminder because, as you've said, when you're dealing with someone who thrives in chaos and needs control, or boundaries won't just be a helpful tool for you. It's a survival mechanism. You have to really ensure that you're setting your boundaries, and one of the ways you do that is how you communicate with that person, as you mentioned, keeping it short, focused, and only what's necessary. And if you have kids with your ex, yeah, in the example that you gave, we're only going to focus on what we're doing for Easter. We're only going to focus on when and where the drop off is. We're only going to focus on scheduling. Nothing about emotional check-ins, because as you say, it's a lure, it's bait to get you into conflict. And so in family law, I know we have tools like Or Family Wizard and those kind of platforms that you can use to keep things clean and documented. But as long as you have a method of communication that you're comfortable with, and maybe even start thinking, this is the only way I'm going to communicate with this person, that might be the boundary that you need to set. It's just about you taking control of the situation so that you're not lured in to more conflict and more chaos, because you don't need to match that energy.
But you can't match that energy. Just to push your point a little bit further, they will always out yell you, out insult you, out swear you. They will always take the conflict to the level necessary for them to win, right? And winning means hurting you, and it's not productive. So don't buy into it, because it's a game you can't win.
It's a game you can't win. So, as we've mentioned, Sonia, narcissists can be extremely persuasive and sometimes even charming. And, this is why evidence or, documentation matters. But in saying that, I do think it needs some context, and because it's not to say that you have to document every single dot, every I, every T crossed or whatever. Please explain to us the usefulness of documentation and maybe the limits in that as well.
Well, I would quite literally say to keep everything, including all the T's and all the I's.
Okay.
Because one of the worst things you can do to a narcissist is have evidence or proof against them, which actually tells the truth. So this is why it is so important to document everything. Narcissists love twist stories. They love to play victim and or portray that you are the one that's done something wrong, or you are the erratic one, or are the unstable one. So, and because a narcissist knows how to constantly manipulate or lie and abuse or even gaslight, their talent is knowing how to confuse you and make you believe that something is your fault when it's not. So it becomes draining and overwhelming and even exhausting just to defend yourself or just to keep up with these twisted stories. Essentially, because if they are convincing you so much so that you're now questioning the truth, this is where it gets complicated. Okay. So when when I'm talking about documenting things, I'm referring to screenshots of text messages, social media messages, emails, financial records, things of that nature. Even if it means recording conversations for yourself to refer back to reassure you that you're not the crazy one and this actually did happen this way, then record it. Like you have to do this because they're talented. They know how to twist a story and they know how to convince you that you're wrong. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They strive, narcissists, they strive on attention. And people that enable them, they get power from that. So you may need to turn to a third party sometimes that were involved in a conversation that you had with a narcissist, just to verify that again you were not the crazy one. So I would say keep all records, even to protect yourself and your own sanity. That is what I would say. Like I think that that's something that personally I would do because you don't know in the future when it's going to come back. So you have it already. Yeah.
Thank you, Sonia. See, I'm still a little baby lawyer, so I'm still learning. I'm a bit naive sometimes. So, but yeah, documentation is important. I've seen it in files that we've worked on that really can show a pattern in some instances of certain behaviors that can be really detrimental to the other side's argument. So it can be helpful. I would say speak to someone like your lawyer, in bringing those matters forward. So Jonathan, there are also these situations also can turn into like emotional war zones. And I think we kind of mentioned this earlier in not taking the bait. But and that, you can't really win against a narcissist. So how might disengaging help someone maintain control in their own situation? What might you say about not engaging in power struggles?
So a couple things. Like I said already, if you get into a fight with them, they're always going to win. If you bring a knife to a fight, they're going to bring a gun. You bring a gun, they're going to bring a cannon. You bring a cannon, they'll bring, I don't know, a jet plane, whatever's better than a cannon. So don't engage with them because they're going to win. And it doesn't matter how good of an explanation you give them, how convincing you are, how genuine you are, how truthful you are, they won't believe your side anyways, right? So don't waste your breath on things like giving them parenting advice or telling them that they're behaving badly or the kinds of things that are going to trigger them into that conflict. So keep as much separation from them as possible, and have some buffers between you and them. So I think it was Jodine who gave excellent advice of using Our Family Wizard. If they're trying to text you, block their number. Before you block their number, send them a quick message. If you want to send me a message, send it to Our Family Wizard. I'll read it there. The great thing about Our Family Wizard is they can't go in and manipulate the data in there. And so if they make a nasty comment to you or say something inappropriate, it's recorded there forever. And so that's information you can then use in court to make your case that this person is a narcissist. So buffers between you and them can be really helpful. So our family wizard is a good one. If you have a family member or a close friend who can act as a go-between, that might be a helpful boundary for you. Your lawyer can be an excellent boundary for you, right? If they're saying, hey, I want you to sell me the house, talk to my lawyer. They can, talk to your lawyer to talk to my lawyer, or just talk to my lawyer directly. Yes, it's expensive to go through that, but it gives you a bit of separation and allows you to escape some of the conflict, not all of it, but some of it. Other buffers might be a therapist is really important. Um, um, every jurisdiction in Ontario has a family court support program. So if you're a woman who's escaping a narcissist, you can go to one of these places. I think in the ones I know about are in Peterborough. That's the YWCA. In Oshawa, it's Luke's Place. Every jurisdiction will have a different organization that takes on that role, but it's available in every jurisdiction. So definitely go and reach out to them, get help. You can actually have a court support worker come to you for court. That will help you avoid power struggles with them and give you some of that separation. If they want to discuss things with you right away, tell them, hey, we've got a court date coming up. Let's talk about it then, or a mediation session, or a collaborative meeting, or whatever it is. So try to maintain your boundaries, and remember that people who have narcissistic personality disorder have a sixth sense. They can sense weakness in people, and they will take advantage. And so don't give them that opportunity. You're never going to be able to convince them of anything, right? Because they're always better than you. They're always smarter than you. Always know what's right. They can make up facts in their brain, out of thin air, and they'll believe them. So don't give them any more fodder to engage in more conflict. Don't give them parenting advice. Don't give them relationship advice. Don't swear at them or name call. Never respond to them in the way they respond to you, because you're going to lose every time. Treat yourself to some separation from them by, engaging professionals who can help you stay out of the power struggles, and maybe balance the power struggles a little bit more by supporting you and giving you the advice and assistance that you need, because this is a very difficult thing to go through. It's not easy. You don't need to make this worse on yourself by engaging in conflict that won't go anywhere, that you're just going to lose. So try to stay out of it.
Yeah, such good points. And so I will go to you, Sonia, now. Maybe you can provide us with some examples or some situations where you've seen these play out, and then how the court receives someone who's exhibiting narcissistic behaviors or is a narcissist.
Essentially, you want to anticipate any manipulative tactics and be prepared for any kind of emotional games or gaslighting that may occur. I have several files where my client is adamant that the opposing party is a narcissist, and is adamant that I put that they are a narcissist in the pleadings. I do not do that, but I will describe characteristics of a narcissist instead in the pleadings, but I will not use the word, as perfectly explained by Jonathan earlier on. It doesn't sit well. However, I do have the ability to explain to my clients that believe that their ex is a narcissist the best way to be prepared. Narcissists know how to read a situation very easily. They know how to learn your habits. They learn your weaknesses. They learn your likes and your dislikes. And they store this information until they're ready to use it against you in the future. They don't open up. They want you to open up to them. So this is how they manipulate and confuse a situation, so that they can get what they want out of you, and they'll turn on their charm, they'll get what they want, and then they'll be done with it and they'll move on. And you're left there scratching your head and wondering what just happened. If you allow a narcissist to learn your ways, you're now falling into that trap. It is likely going to be difficult for you to prepare for a narcissist's next move, since you spend most of the time just confused and trying to figure out how you just allowed them in and why you're the bad person, because that's what they're going to make you believe. So the bottom line, I would say, is because narcissists are very good at getting a reaction out of you, don't let them see a reaction out of you. If you don't react to them, then they're helpless. They have no ammunition against you. So the first step in learning how not to react is to be able to anticipate their next move. And how you do this is very simple. You simply teach yourself how to become emotionless when reacting to a narcissistic person. Meaning, if they're trying to say, "Yo, yeah, your hair is ugly," just ignore it or just stare at them. Don't smile. Don't get angry. Anything at all. Just don't have an emotion. Don't have a reaction to them. This is a way that you can protect yourself. You need to put up, unfortunately, you're going to have to put on this armor to prevent them from getting in and learning your ways. This way, they won't be able to manipulate you or gaslight you anymore. And once you learn this trick, essentially, you have learned how to combat narcissistic behavior. And this is what I tell my clients. And I really enforce this, and I explain, ignore it. It's not the point. What is the point? I don't know. Child support? Okay, let's deal with this. What documents do we need to get child support in order? Who cares of all the other nonsense that's going on in that email, or that email from the opposing party, or that text message from the opposing party? It's not relevant. It's white noise. Don't react to it. So that's essentially what I would recommend to be prepared. Although it's difficult to be prepared, this is the best way you can be prepared, in my opinion.
For sure, to mentally prepare yourself for manipulation tactics by knowing you're dealing with a bully and you don't want to feed the bully. So and Jonathan, I feel like I'm we've spoken about this before because we've mentioned Biff, but keeping communication business-like is a part of not feeding the bully. Can you please just expand on what that kind of communication would look like? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so it goes back to that BIF response: brief, informative, friendly, and firm. You want to keep things as brief as possible. Don't give them any extra information about you or about the situation that could draw them back into the conflict. Write every single email or message or our family wizard or whatever, any communication with them, expect it to be seen by a judge. Okay, so always communicate with them as though you're being watched, because you are going to be watched. The narcissist is going to jump on any possible. So one technique that I recommend to parents going through this is what I call the 24-hour rule. If your ex sends you a nasty message, write a response right away. Put all your anger and vitriol and frustration and anxieties into that response to them. Use colorful language if you want, but don't send it. Wait 24 hours. Read it again the following day after you've had a sleep and you've had a few things to cool off. Then rewrite the message in a more appropriate way, and that's the message you send out. So does it work every time? No, but these little techniques can help just reduce the conflict enough to be manageable. I think that's one important point I want to make today, is that there's no way to stop the person from being a narcissist. There's no way to stop them from being abusive. This is who they are at their core. You're not going to change their fundamental personality that they were born with. So it's about managing them. So sometimes this may be a little bit off color, but I sometimes compare it to managing a chronic illness, right? You're not going to cure diabetes or, let's say, arthritis, right? Arthritis is something that you have to live with and you have to learn to manage. But if you do your exercises, you do your physio, you take warm baths, you take your medication, do your stretches, then you can live a pretty normal life, even though you've got this pain in the background. So the same advice goes with divorcing a narcissist. You can't expect the conflict to go to zero. It never will. It's a chronic illness that has to be managed. So find ways to, as I said before, put up barriers between you and them, minimize the conflict by not engaging in communications that will draw them back into the conflict. Get support for yourself to be able to survive this very stressful situation. And whenever you're communicating with your ex, keep your messages as brief as possible. Focus only on the important stuff. Leave the emotions out of it. You want to funnel all this through your thinking brain, not your emotional brain. And only respond to the things that are relevant. So, if they're asking you, I want you to sell the house to me, keep it brief. I don't want to talk about this. Talk to my lawyer. That's all you have to say. You don't have to get into a big, I'm sick and tired of you messaging me all the time about this, but leave all that stuff out. One recommendations I've heard from a lot of people is try to be like a customer service representative on a support, like a tech call line, right? It doesn't matter how
IT
rude
support.
and inappropriate your clients is, you got to keep your emotions in check and you got to be polite, brief, and as professional as possible. I know it's really, really hard when your ex knows exactly how to push your buttons, when they might be doing really awful things to you. But believe me, it'll be worse if you don't do this, right? Like, it's bad enough separating from someone who has narcissistic personality disorder. So don't add to your trials and tribulations by engaging in more conflict. The other thing to keep in mind too is narcissists tend to like to partner up with people who are the opposite to them, very kind, very friendly, very giving people, and those are the people that they like to take advantage of. And so you might have to change your personality a little bit, or get help, behaving in a way that your personality isn't natural to in court, right? Because when you go to court, the narcissist is going to throw as much mud at the wall as possible, hope something sticks, right? They're going to say you're a bad parent, that you're a bad partner, that you're a liar, that you've got mental health problems, that you're abusive, whatever. They're going to throw at the wall. And if you're a nice person back and say, well, I don't want to, create more conflict by saying mean things in affidavits or whatever, you're going to lose, because they're going to say all kinds of nasty things about you, and potentially leave that as the first impression in the judge's mind and the court's mind. And if you don't defend yourself, then you're going to lose. So when I say, don't engage in the conflict, I mean that kind of in your personal life, but in court, take a different strategy. Follow your lawyer's advice. Don't pull your punches. Make sure that the court knows exactly what kind of person this is. If they're a liar, call them a liar. If they're abusive, like Sonia was saying expertly, you don't have to call them a narcissist, but you can list all the behaviors that they're engaging in your affidavit to give the judge a sense of what what you're dealing with, what the children are dealing with. So, I just want to balance out that, don't engage in conflict in your personal life, but defend yourself vigorously in court.
Yeah, so true. So, yeah, Sonia, please take it away. I know you have a point to make.
Yeah, so you want to use a lawyer who understands high conflict divorce, as our subtitle clearly states. I've kind of just divided it into two different sections. So one, if you are dealing with a narcissist as the opposing party in your divorce dispute, then your lawyer needs to be strong enough for you not only to be able to ignore all the BS and the background noise, not only look for the facts and the supporting evidence that supports the case, but most of all, your lawyer needs to be someone who will remind you to stay focused on the facts and evidence and teach you how not to react to unnecessary arguments. That's the key. Okay, a lot of clients will get very upset with their lawyer. Why aren't you listening to me? I'm telling you that she's like this or he's like this, and I'm telling you that as a lawyer, I tell my clients, I don't care. That's not the important point. I understand you, I'm hearing you, but that's not something that we need to deal with in court or through communications. We need to get to the facts. So I like to remind the clients, don't react to the white noise. Now, if you're the lawyer who represents the narcissist, even if they don't know that they are a narcissist, the worst thing that that lawyer can do is enable them, root them on, or be their mouthpiece. That is the worst thing that lawyer can do for that client. It is essential for that lawyer, for the lawyer in this case, to keep not only to keep focused on the law and the facts, but remind that particular client what needs to occur to move this matter along. Okay. This lawyer also needs to be someone that sees through the nonsense and puts this narcissistic individual in their place, which is what I do regularly. Unfortunately, this is the unfortunate part, because narcissistic personalities don't like to be told what to do, it may be very difficult for a narcissistic person to continue with their same lawyer. They'll tend to jump around from lawyer to lawyer and eventually just be self-represented because they don't want to listen to exactly what needs to occur, what the law is. And this is the problem. So you have to, like, this, if the client that you have is a narcissistic individual or has narcissistic tendencies, you need to be a strong enough lawyer to shut them down and keep them focused. Otherwise, you gotta let them go because there's gonna be a breakdown in lawyer-client relationship, and you'll never move forward, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, so true. And you know, we do have an obligation as lawyers not to be taking part in frivolous claims or wasting the court's time. So these are also things that we take into consideration when we are when we're strategizing with clients and building a case about what's necessary to take before the court. All these things might be true for you in terms of like what your partner did to you, or maybe if you're the client who has narcissistic tendencies, you might feel a certain way, but that doesn't mean that you should take this before the court. Not everything needs to be litigated. And so as Sonia says, focusing on your goal is important. Jonathan, in these situations, you've mentioned before that, you know, especially when you're dealing with someone who's narcissistic or has those tendencies, you need to take care of yourself because it is a difficult journey. What is something that you might tell your clients, or how would you advise them to approach these interactions?
Yeah, so my spiel that I give clients frequently is no person is an island. We're a social animal. We need others for all kinds of things, like I don't grow the food that I eat. I don't make the roads I drive on. I didn't even make the car that I drive around. So we rely on other people for all kinds of things in our life. And this is a situation where you need to rely on other people. It's very difficult to get through this without professional help. So I would recommend that if you do suspect that your ex is a narcissist, if you are having a hard time with it, connect with, as Sonia very expertly said, a good lawyer who will defend you, but in a reasonable way, and not, contribute to the conflict, but help protect you from it, help manage it. But also, it might be helpful to connect with a therapist or a person who's kind of similar qualifications to me, who has kind of the social work counseling background, but also the family law background. So combined, they can help guide you through the process of divorcing a narcissist. And it's going to be one of the toughest things you do in your life. I mean, divorce is bad enough for people who don't have a narcissistic ex-partner. It's one of the most stressful things a person can go through in our modern society, in Canada at least. So get help. I mean, you might have a good like what we would call informal support system, so friends, family members. That's great. Like, get help from them. They're very supportive, and their help is vital, but they don't have the expertise in family law or in psychology or understanding narcissism and how to address it, that a trained professional will. So get all the support that you need from your friends and family, but also reach out to some professional help, because you're going to get quality advice that hits different points than your friends and family might be able to give you. So I think, going through this without that kind of support, I don't think is good for you. It's probably not good for your kids either, right? Like, one of the hardest things to get through this is like looking after yourself enough so that you can look after your kids as well. So you do have to prioritize your mental health. And, one of the common spiels that therapists give their clients is, when you're flying on a plane with your kids and the cabin pressure drops, you're told to put your mask on first before you put your kids on, because if you're passed out, you're useless to your kids and you can't help them. Right. So make sure you look after your own needs. Maybe that's going to counseling. Maybe that's a spa day with your favorite sibling. Maybe that's, a weekend away at a cottage, with a friend. But also reach out to someone who has experience, supporting people through this very, very difficult process, who understands the system, who can help you make the right choices, right? They're not going to make choices for you, but they're going to give you the information you need to make the right choices. I think, the two keys there are finding the right lawyer, and don't be afraid to shop around for lawyers. Don't feel like you're stuck with the first person you call. Think of them as your staff, and you want to interview them to make sure you get the best staff possible. So ask them, do they have any experience working with, either clients themselves that are narcissist or people divorcing a narcissist? Ask them what kind of training they have, and then, ask the same questions of a therapist. Make sure that you find someone who knows what they're talking about and can actually give you good, valuable advice in the process. Um, and what you want, they can also be, a therapist can also be a nice dumping ground for all of your unpleasant thoughts and feelings. And I think it was Sonia who was saying earlier that you want to make sure that you're crazy checking yourself. That's not the term that Sonia used, but your narcissist ex is going to call you crazy, call you a liar, make you question everything about reality, really. And so that's where a therapist can really help. Be a reality check. You can say, like, here's this message that I sent my ex. Do you think his or her response is reasonable? and getting that outside point of view can be very validating, because they will be able to see through the narcissistic behaviors and be able to, validate that, yeah, you are going through a very difficult time, and that you're not crazy and it's not your fault, and this is gaslighting and all those kinds of things that, are helpful to go through when you're experiencing this sort of thing.
100%. Like, for sure, you need to have some kind of support around you, and as Jonathan said, professional support as well as informal supports, those can run parallel. So it's all about giving yourself the tools that you need to survive this experience and come out the other side, well, not really unscathed, but as whole as you can be. Um, so, Sonia, I think this is something that we've spoken about earlier, about staying focused on your goals. Because as we know, things can get off track, and distractions abound when it comes to narcissists. So, what are some things that you tell clients that, or remind clients of, like timelines or legal objectives that they need to focus on, so that they don't get caught up in the distraction that is their narcissistic ex?
Yeah, I'm very to the point. I'm very black and white.
Yeah.
I typically will, if a client decides that, when they initially retain, if they're like on the fence as to whether or not they want to bring an immediate court application, for example, obviously, just like a situation like that, I'm going to send them a really long email that says step 1, court application, 30 days to respond, the answer. Like I'll give them the whole laydown. Then they'll give them, case conference will happen. Then the settlement, like I'll give them the whole layout. I'm sorry, and I'll do this regularly. Now, I will do the same thing if there's an issue with narcissism or potential narcissism as the opposing party, and the client has discussions with me, wrapping around stories. He or she has done this, and what do I do? And he won't bother me, and she won't leave me alone, or all these issues. And I will do the same thing. Step 1, ignore. Step 2, step 3, and I will actually write or speak to them, and I will say, what is it that you want? Are there property issues? Are there child support issues? Spousal support issues? Parenting issues? What are the issues that you need to get resolved? And they will tell me. So I'm getting them to ignore the white noise around them, and I want to know exactly what they need. As soon as I hear that, I will say, okay, property issues? Sure. Here's a form 13.1. Start filling it in. Ignore everything else. Or spousal support. Okay, send me your notice of assessment. I'll email the other side, ask them for the notice of assessment. We'll just move on from there. Like, I get them focused on the tactful things that they need to do in order to get to the results that they want. And I will constantly explain to them that everything else is not necessary. We don't want to hear it. It's not productive. It's counterproductive. And you're wasting, and I'll remind them that they're wasting their money on legal fees just for me to argue about these unnecessary issues, these unnecessary disputes, right? So bottom line, I just remind everyone, get to the point. Let's get to the point. Let's get focused. That's the best thing I can say with respect to focus on the goals, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think it's important to add to that point that the legal process is not a sprint. It takes a while. So you want to be as pointed as you can with the things that you can control. So like you're doing your application, you need your application to be crisp. It needs to be to the point. The court needs to understand what you're trying to put towards them, what your arguments, what the facts of the situation are, and what you're asking for. And so when you're at that stage, that's what you need to focus on. And as Sonia is saying, once that stage is over, whatever comes up next, that's what we're focusing on, whether it's getting disclosure, whether it's filing, I don't know, some kind of motion for something or whatever, I don't know. But whatever it is, that's what you should be focused on in that moment, because this is very much a marathon, unfortunately, because the legal process is not a quick fix. It and especially if you're dealing with someone who has narcissistic tendencies or is a narcissist, they can tend to extend the proceedings to maintain some kind of control or wear the other party down. So as we have been saying, it is important for you to stay focused on the issues, not take the bait, focus on your goal, the goal that you came in with. And particularly if you have children, the most important thing in that situation will be the best interests of the child. And that should always be your North Star. So in Ontario, courts recognize that, litigious parties can extend the process, the court process unnecessarily sometimes. So we have a case management system where you see the judge multiple times before you even get to trial. And in that system, and then the family law system in general, we encourage settlement where possible, because that's important to have. We don't want everyone going to trial. It's very expensive, and it just lengthens the process that much more. So if there are issues that you can settle, the court would much prefer that you look into those issues, work together, because especially if you have kids, you're going to be working together for a long time. So there needs to be some common ground that you can have. I don't know if anyone wants to expand on that point.
I just want to add one
Yes,
thing.
Jonathan.
I want to correct something you said,
Uh-oh.
Jodine. It's not a marathon. I describe it as a 2-year mosey.
Okay.
That's the kind of
Sorry.
race we're talking about.
You're right.
We're not running. We're walking very
We
slowly.
are
At best, we're
walking.
moseying.
Oh, true. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. It is not a run. We're not running anywhere.
Nobody's running in family court.
No running in family court. Yes. And we joke, but it is it can be a process that weighs down on the participants. So please be mindful of that. And that sometimes results, well, it's important to remember that you're not winning and losing. You're trying to set yourself up for a more, I guess, livable future with your ex. So, yeah, I think that we should, when you're approaching the family law process, just please be mindful that it's not about winning and losing, and then also there's no quick fix. But if you work with your lawyer and you stay focused on your goals and you don't take the bait, the process can be that much easier for you, or less stressful, I should say.
Manageable. It won't be pleasant, but it will be manageable.
Yeah, it will be manageable. And I think that's all she wrote. So I would like to thank everyone for I don't see any questions. Do I see any questions? No, no questions. So I'd like to thank everyone for participating. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, everyone in on Zoom, everyone on YouTube. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for tuning in. Following this session, there will be a brief survey allowing you to share your comments and suggestions on future topics you'd like us to explore. You can also book now to take advantage of that complimentary initial consult that I mentioned at the top. Please contact our intake team at intake@russellalexander.com and provide the code SPRING25 to schedule your appointment. Registration for our next event is open now, and I think that will be, how to file a motion to change. Okay, cool. Some practical advice. And thank you so much to our panelists once more for your insights. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye everyone. Have a great evening.